Hey guys, how's it going? It's Rust Belt Collector here, and today we're taking a look at this, the Rogue One Anton Merrick's X-Wing Starfighter. Now, this is a Target exclusive, and it took a while for me to actually get, all the stars aligned or whatever to buy this, and I was able to buy it with their 25% off coupon that they had for their toy department, so it's really, really nice. I got this for a good price. And although it took quite a bit to finally, log on to Target.com at the exact time that this was in stock, I finally managed to do it. And I'm really, really excited to have this in hand. This is going to be the first vehicle that we review on the channel. I know technically I did have the Tiger Shark gunship, but I didn't really review that. That wasn't a proper review. And this will be a proper review. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to actually fit into the frame, but first off, this photography on the box is absolutely gorgeous. They have it framed really nicely. They have, I'm guessing, a Force Link or one of the 5 POA choppers as a little Easter egg there. You got the Rebel Fleet Troopers, 2 of those. The Gonk droid from one of the more recent waves. I can't remember what wave that came out in, and then, some other figures there. It looks great. This looks just like a screen grab out of Rogue One. As someone who's had a partial career in product photography, this really pleases me. I wish I could keep it in the box, but I will be saving this box. Don't get me wrong. I've kept a couple of these larger scale boxes from the vintage collection, but unfortunately we have, or maybe fortunately, we have to break this out of the box. Now, certainly this is amazing, and I mean, it's my first actual 3 3/4 inch scale X-Wing, if you can believe that. But the real highlight for me is honestly getting the Antoc Merrick figure. I I loved Rogue One. It's probably one of my favorite Star Wars movies, maybe my favorite, above all else. I'm not entirely sure. The numbers change on that, but it's one of my favorites for sure. And having Blue Squadron as this expendable group that, since we didn't see them in A New Hope, we didn't know what would happen to them. It was awesome. And I think this looks fantastic. If they went ahead and released single-carded pilots, other pilots where we could, swap them out and make a little squadron of X-Wings, should you maybe buy multiple of these, that would be perfect. I'm already anticipating they will do that since obviously we have the perfect body right here. Swap out the head, swap out the helmet, and there you go. And since they did release this figure in 3 3/4 inch, I have no need to buy the Black Series version, which I'm kind of grateful for since that was also an exclusive. And likewise, I really hope that this kind of return of the Rogue One figures with the re-release of the Black Series Rogue One figures, I hope they go back now and they complete the Rogue One line in Vintage Collection, because I bought them all in Black Series, but I would really prefer them in 3 3/4 inch. We have way more world building stuff from Rogue One in 3 3/4 inch with the hover tank, all the different troopers, fill in the blank. We have it all except for the main cast. So they need to go back. Hopefully they will, especially this kind of gives me hope that they will, but hopefully they do. Anyways, enough rambling. Let's break this packaging open and see what we have inside. Opening up the package, this is what you're going to be greeted with. Obviously, there's some assembly required with the X-Wing because there's no way that would fit just fully assembled in the cardboard there. But starting it off, oh boy, does this look good. I mean, the card is nice and crisp. It's definitely a heavier card stock. I think Yakface may have mentioned that as well over on Instagram, but the card stock is definitely heavier than what we're used to with the Vintage Collection. Don't know if that's just because it's a vehicle pack-in or if that will be a new standard going forward, but very pleased with that. There's no bends, no crinkles. It looks amazing. On the back here, you have these other figures that you can get, which it's interesting that he is on here since he's a vehicle pack-in. He's not really released with any of these waves, but still cool. Looks nice. Very nice little card art on the back. And, your typical garbage and gobbledygook there that I've never really bothered to read. But yeah, there he is. We'll take a look at him in just a moment, but first we gotta break this out of the packaging. So out of the box, here's what we get. We have the base of the X-Wing with its nose, and then we have 3 paper bags here which have the wings and the blasters. I'm really grateful to see that Hasbro is going the route of these little paper bags rather than plastic bags. It's just nice to see them being more environmentally conscious, I suppose. I can just take these and throw them right into my recycling bin, and they're actually going to to be recycled, versus plastic, which I end up just having to throw away. And I kind of feel bad with, given how many items I typically buy in a month, a lot of them have plastic, and you know, it's just waste. It's plastic. It'll sit in the earth for 10 billion years, and that's never a good thing. So anyways, you know, it's nice to see that they are going this route. And I think Lego is also going the route of more paper bags. So that's cool. It's just a small thing, but it's cool to see. This is way more efficient, I feel like. And yeah, it's easier for me to dispose of as well. And last but not least, all of, I guess, the turbo lasers. I'm not really sure what you would qualify these. Oh, got one more. I guess we have a missile as well. So something on here must fire. I didn't realize that there was a spring-loaded system anywhere on here. I guess that's supposed to be like a proton torpedo, maybe? I'm guessing that's probably what that is. We'll just assume that that is what that is for now. But now let's get to the assembly, and already I can tell this is going to be absolutely amazing. Just looking at the paint apps alone, I mean, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but this thing is absolutely drenched in weathering, and it looks great. It looks absolutely amazing. Some really nice paint wash going on here. It gives it that really, you know, used look. It makes it seem like this has been through a lot of combat. Definitely an old world vehicle that's being used by the rebellion. Oh man, I'm so stoked to have this. This is going to look amazing. So first we attach the nose, and I'm going to say that given the design of these clips, this is a permanent attachment. So you're not going to be able to take this off very easily once it is on. And that's okay, because I don't plan to. I'm fine with it being a more permanent thing. If I ever did have to transport this, I would certainly just find a box that's big enough. Are all the wings the same? That's the real question. It appears that we have two of each weathering pattern. So you get one that has this pattern, and you get one that has this pattern, and then that's just repeated. So that way you don't have any duplicates, it looks like. So there's one, and then this duplicate wing here will be the bottom of this wing, and then vice versa for the other pattern. So then this pattern is the top of this wing, and its duplicate is the bottom of this wing. I like that. You know, I don't mind that it's a repeated weathering pattern. It definitely cuts down on costs, and I'm not too worried about that because, you know, as long as the top two are different, that's really what you're going to be looking at, and those are different, absolutely. So there we go. So on the bottom here, it's actually kind of cool. You have this little like pop open storage area, maybe just for some added detail, like, you know, oh, you're refueling the ship or something like that. But then the missile launcher, I was kind of looking for the missile launcher, and it's actually really nicely designed. It's like a flip out. Like this is just on a little peg, I guess, and it rotates out. And then you can put the torpedo in there like that. This button right here would fire it, and then it's also a great way to store it. So I don't feel like I'm going to lose that missile because it's actually like really nicely stored in there. It's not going to accidentally fire when it's on display or something. And then here we have the landing gear. That little panel folds out, and then the leg drops down. So that's really nice as well. I mean, just the level of detail packed into this is very much appreciated. I'd say this is actually like a step up from the hover tank. I really liked the hover tank, had a lot of detail packed into it, but I would actually say that this may be slightly more detailed, more nicely weathered than that one. It certainly has way more paint apps. With all these being paint apps, the only stickers that I've noticed so far are actually here on the inset of the wings, right there and right there. Those are both stickers. And now we have all of these attached as well, making this a complete X-Wing that does not fit at all into the camera frame. We're gonna have to do some beauty shots of this thing. This thing has an absolutely massive wingspan, and as you can see, it takes up the majority of my desk here, which is not a bad thing. I mean, this is definitely scale accurate, represents what an X-Wing should be in the 3 3/4 inch line, and I really appreciate everything that they've packed into this design here. Even when you flip it around to the back, they have spared no detail, no expense. You know, they got the inside of each thruster, as well as this nicely painted back section. Now, this button around here does open up and extend the S-foils. However, I noticed with the landing gear, it just closes back down. So you kind of have to actually have it up in the air, and then you push this lever down. Trying to do it with one hand is very difficult, but you push it down, lock it over to the right, and there you have those open. They may not be as open as I would like them to be. I feel like that's maybe a few degrees short of screen accuracy, but it's not bad. And I think that this is probably going to go hang from my ceiling. So, you know, it's acceptable. I'm okay with that. Another thing that we really do have to talk about is the level of detail that they've packed into this cockpit. They've got little stickers there on the side showcasing some control panels, as well as all these paint apps that just look absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they did not really have to go that detailed, and they did. So I appreciate that for sure. It just looks really, really nice. There is even a little pull-out targeting computer right here. You can pull that out. It's not very painted or anything, but that can go in front of the pilot and then fold up, fold back to the side. It is just so, so cool. So on to the main attraction, Antoc Merrick. This figure is absolutely stunning. Now, it's pretty simple. It is just a slight retool and a slight recolor with, of course, a unique head and helmet, but it looks so good. This is what I wanted out of a vintage collection Rogue One pilot, and yeah, what else can I say? I mean, the blue looks absolutely stunning. That's one of the reasons why I so love the Blue Squadron from Rogue One, is just the color pattern. And yeah, he's got this really nice dark colored jumpsuit. The lighter cyan, light blue, whatever you want to call it, markings on his helmet look great. Now, for a quick comparison, I've pulled out the Vintage Collection Luke Skywalker here because they have reused his torso and his legs for Antoc here. The only thing that they've really changed with those is obviously the color, but they've also swapped the lower legs around. You can see that Antoc has the ammo belt on his left leg, whereas Luke has it on his right leg. And of course, the helmets are the same as well, same base mold with unique color patterns between the two of them. And the only thing that's really unique here is the arms, and of course the head, but the arms are unique, giving this little ridged look to Antoc's arms, whereas Luke has his cylinders. I don't know what those are, just little greebles that they added to the costume back in the day. And yeah, so they have unique arms, but the torso and the legs are the same, and that's okay. That's kind of what I expected from this figure. I'm glad that they went and actually made the arms unique, and they didn't just try and pass it off as, you know, okay to have these Luke Skywalker arms. I think the fans probably would have rioted over that, but yeah, it's really nice. They reused what they needed to reuse, and they made some new stuff for where there needed to be new stuff added. I think this is a really solid mold, and I have no problem if they go ahead and give us more pilots in either one of these molds. You know, some more Blue Squadron in this mold, and some more Red Squadron or Gold Squadron in this mold. Both look amazing, and yeah, we're going to get this guy out of here, though, because this is the one we want to talk about. So zooming in nice and up close, that's something I don't remember to do very often with these reviews, but with face printing like this, you absolutely have to. In fact, I might even be able to get even closer. For a 3 3/4 inch figure, this is absolutely stunning in terms of detail. And yes, of course, you can cover it all up with a helmet. However, oof, that's a bit of a loosey-goosey helmet there. He could probably wear this sideways with how loose it is. That's an issue. I wasn't expecting that, unfortunately. I think the issue is probably coming from reusing the Luke Skywalker mold, where he has a significantly larger amount of hair that the helmet has to fit over. You can kind of see here. Let's just pop those off together. Yeah, those heads are definitely a different size, so, you know, we can probably put Antoc's helmet on with no problem, and yeah, Luke's is going to be just as loose. So that's a bit of a bummer, I will admit. You know, if you put him in the X-Wing, you're going to want to give him the X-Wing helmet. The reuse does make sense, but even if they scaled the head up just a little bit, I don't think it would look disproportionate in any way if they gave it just a little bit more, like a 1% upscale for the head, just so that that wouldn't look so dang goofy when it's actually on his head. So I guess that is a little bit of a con. This isn't the perfect set after all. It definitely has some some flaws, and this is probably the biggest, most egregious flaw so far. Though I must say, I still love this helmet. Like the detailing and the weathering, it all looks so good, which makes me wish that this fit even more because it looks too good not to have on the character. Even though the face printing is great, if I have him in the X-Wing, I definitely want him with this helmet. For the time being, a possible solution for all of you that might pick this up would be to just put some blue tack or like some wall tack inside of the helmet, and that way when it's on his head, it doesn't just, float around the way that it does here. That way it would actually sit, and you could kind of like position it where you wanted it so that the eyes lined up and all that. Additionally, he does come with this Rebel blaster, which is really nice. Not necessary to include it since we never see him use a blaster, but still an appreciated accessory nonetheless. Adds a little bit to the overall value of this figure in terms of like what they're offering us for the price point. So I do appreciate that. Though there is one crucial thing that is missing from this pack that we'll talk about in just a moment, that I think is actually maybe like the big two cons of this pack now. There was just going to be the one that I was going to mention, but the helmet makes it two. So the helmet is an issue, and there's one more thing that I think this pack is missing. But apart from the issue with the helmet, this figure is really nice overall, and we'll just quickly go over the articulation here. I don't feel like this figure needs a lot of articulation since it's a pilot, and most of his time is going to be spent in pilot poses, I guess. But he still has good articulation. So up at the top, there is a ball joint, or rather a dumbbell joint, giving you some really nice angles that you can get with the head, forward, backwards, even some side-to-side action, which is really nice to see in Vintage Collection. The shoulders are a hinge and swivel, so all the way around, up well past 90, and then we have the single-jointed elbows, giving you a nice 90-degree crunch, spin it all the way around, and then hinge and swivel at the wrist. Interestingly enough, they gave both wrists an up and a down hinge, which it doesn't really matter to me on this particular figure. It's not a weapon-holding character typically, so I don't mind, but it's still something worth noting. At the torso, there's a ball joint, so there's good rotation there, forward and back crunch side to side. Moving down to the hips, you have the hinge and swivel with the thigh swivel. So to get him into a seated position to fit into the X-Wing, you just got to swivel that joint around and then swivel that thigh joint to get it right there. And it might actually be easier to spin it out to the side and then in. Yeah, there we go. So he'll sit in the X-Wing just like that. Single jointed knees. If you wanted to sit maybe in a chair or something, he can do that as well. And then at the ankles, hinge and swivel all the way around, point the toe forward to there. Really nice articulation, for a simple figure that typically would just sit in a vehicle. They definitely gave him what is now the standard, if you will, for Vintage Collection, minus the rockers in the ankles, but with a figure like this, I really don't care. There isn't anything that I could see action-wise, action pose-wise, that I would need the ankle rockers for, so the hinge and the swivel is just fine here. This figure will fit in very nicely with the other Rogue One characters. I seem to have misplaced my Shrewd Imwe that I had in the Vintage Collection. The rest of my Rogue One figures are all 5 POA, so I've amassed a collection of those, but we really need them all in Vintage Collection. Like, we need an upgrade. The meme of hitting the upgrade button. We need to hit that upgrade button for pretty much the entire Rogue One wave that we got. Since this is a Luke body, technically, he is going to be shorter than Stormtroopers and probably most other characters. Is that the accurate height for this character? I don't know. He feels taller than that in the movie, so maybe he should be up here on some stilts, but again, it's that reuse of the Luke body. Luke being a shorter character, his figure is subsequently shorter. But there is also something to be said that perhaps it is a running trend with Vintage Collection that the figures are smaller than they used to be. I could be wrong about that, but, for instance, here he is next to Maul, and Maul seemed short to me, as did Ahsoka and those figures. They also, the new ARC Trooper mold, was smaller than previous Clone Trooper molds. So maybe it's not so much a height difference as it is a change in the Vintage Collection. These guys being actually technically these were 3 3/4 inch Black Series releases, and then they were re-released in Vintage Collection. So there might be something to pay attention there. I will definitely keep my eye out for that kind of thing, where maybe Vintage Collection figures are getting scaled down just a tiny bit from previous releases. It could be a thing. Maybe I'm just going crazy. That's definitely possible as well. But yeah, let me know if you guys have noticed that as well. Is Vintage Collection getting smaller? I didn't really think about it until I sat down to make this video. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. And here he is next to his X-Wing. It looks really, really nice. Of course, it's not one-to-one. You know, a one-to-one scale between the figure and the X-Wing would have the X-Wing being at least twice as big as it is. But this is still really a nice size comparison. I don't think I would want it much bigger because I would have no place to store it. But as you see, you know, just kind of taking a look at the X-Wing, you might see something missing. What could be missing? Oh, literally right there. So the other issue, apart from the helmet, that I have with this X-Wing is that there is not an astromech droid included. Now, I've looked online and there isn't a canon droid that he had with him. You might see it in like a frame or two, but they've never showed like official images of its design. But I feel like this would have been a perfect opportunity to release one. Maybe we'll get one in like the Droid Factory or something like that down the line, but it's kind of disappointing that we got a unique Antoc Merrick figure, which is really awesome, don't get me wrong, but you know, he needs his partner. Every X-Wing pilot needs his loyal astromech droid to pilot along with him. So that's probably my biggest disappointment. I could actually deal with the smaller helmet, or the larger helmet rather, if we got a accurate astromech droid to go along with him. Now, for the time being, until they release one, should they ever decide to do so, I'm just going to use this Build-A-Droid R7. I think his color scheme looks really nice with this, and he fits in perfectly. And there we have it. That's a wrap on the Rogue One Antoc Merrick X-Wing Starfighter. Absolutely awesome. What a wonderful addition to the vintage collection. Like, there's been some hiccups, there's been some issues, but when they release something like this, there's just nothing else to do except say, wow. You know, sometimes Hasbro gets it 100% right, or even 99% right. Either way, this is awesome, a fine, fine addition to the collection. And if you're a fan of this kind of thing, if you have the room for it in your collection, definitely pick it up, because with it being a Target exclusive, it'll be kind of hard to get, but you know, I think that these are going to be on store shelves and hopefully readily accessible to any collectors. But with all that being said, down in the description there's a link to social media should you decide to follow me over on Facebook and Instagram. I post toy photography as well as, you know, toy updates with, you know, what's being released, what pre-orders are up, things like that. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, noon, or night. Be kind to everyone, and as always, I will catch you all in the next video.